Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast, a Pod Squad podcast, the granddaddy of all Inside Lowell podcasts. The very first one we did was a Pod Squad, and the gang is back together. I'll bring them on in a quick second. First, want to tell you, I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in downtown Lowell. Unicare is now WellPoint. New name, same commitment to Massachusetts and to its members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. And we thank our friends at WellPoint for helping to make this podcast, all of our Inside Lowell podcasts possible, along with our friends at Washington Savings Bank. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI properties from affordable to luxurious apartments for all. Boston North Company, business solutions for restaurant and retail. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell since 1925. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell counts on for more than 41 years. And the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. And speaking of hard-hitting action and excitement, the gang is all here in the WellPoint Studios, the Pod Squad. I'm going to introduce them to you left to right on your TV screen, cell phone monitor.
Wait, shouldn't I be in the middle? You should be on the left.
I should be on the right. Jack Mitchell wearing his, what is it, election protection?
I am the election protector, yes.
All right. Jim, I'm already sick.
We'll talk about what that means. I'm excited to know more about it.
We will.
You can.
Mikaela McCarthy, the hyphen, just back from Idaho.
Yeah.
You just flew in, and boy, are your arms tired.
Actually, I rode my bike here.
From Idaho?
I got an Uber line electric bike. Rode all the way.
That would
My
be
legs are tired.
That would be a heck of a field trip, right? A bike across the country.
People have done it.
I know they have for charity. Yeah.
Yeah. I lied. I did take a plane.
You did
but
take
I
a
offset it. I offset my carbon emissions.
Was it an electric plane?
No, you know what? It's the time is or green hydrogen, electric. The time is coming.
Yeah, you're excited. Your trip to Idaho, right in the middle of a beautifully red state, convinced you that the bikes are coming.
They embrace the bikes. You know why? Because you know why? And I don't want to make this too long, but like they love the nature because it's so beautiful over there. So there's a very interesting dynamic between the red, self-sufficiency, like libertarian, and also the appreciation of nature. So very good to see.
Well, that's the original environmental movement, was about keeping the air clean, keeping the water clean, protecting your land. Exactly.
Public land.
Before it became an economic engine.
Hey.
That's what that's what the environmental movement was all about. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk more about your bike lanes, and of course the always irreverent Mike Bacigalupo, aka Batch, is here as well. How are you, sir?
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm ready to go. We got a lot going on in the city of Lowell, including major new developments that are going to kick off our discussion today. As I was out at my weeding and cleaning up, getting ready for the folk festival, and at my kids' baseball game, you guys were all reading stories about the plaintiffs who brought the charter change to the city of Lowell have now finally spoken up about a special election and replacing the District 3 City Councilor in Belvedere. Mm-hmm. And it appears that they don't have a problem with the city deciding to replace John Leahy via special election. So one more hurdle cleared. We're another step closer to a special election. You guys actually read the stuff that was out there on social media, and I haven't. So let's hear some of the details. Let's hear your reaction.
Well, I mean, I thought it was funny, but they put in the future, you should probably ask us earlier. And then they wrote, we got this letter on July, whatever it was. I think they said the 11th or something. I'm like, well,
It was after the last city council meeting, right?
So that would have been.
Where it was discussed at the last council meeting.
The 11th.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it the last meeting?
It was after. They were notified after the last.
Okay.
So they got that letter after.
Right. Which makes sense. I don't know. The last, hey, you got to revise this, then you send it. I would think they would send it to them last. I mean, what are you going to send? Whether it's first or last, does it really matter? I don't know.
Did anybody expect them to say anything differently? Did anybody expect them to object to a special election? I thought that was a foregone conclusion. It could have been done with a quick phone call.
Right. I mean, that would have been like them like taking a stance and then having more back and forth and more effort.
Well, I'd want it you gotta get it in writing.
Yeah. No. Yes.
Why? Did we get it in writing when we sent the special act to the legislature in May?
What, their opinion?
Yeah.
But it got kicked back. I think once you're ready to vote on, before you vote on it, get the okay.
No, it cleared through City Hall,
Right.
right? And then it went to the State House.
Right.
Not the 3 years, because that was all just
Wait, which time?
right? This time, the only time that matters. This time.
No, I think they didn't do it the other
time
times.
doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you watch the city council, the city solicitor said no. Where he, in an answer to Councilor Dakota, said no. This is all an all new, or it's all anew.
Right.
All right, which is the special legislation that went in the spring of this year. So the State House has only had it for about 60 days, right? 45 days.
So it never. So we know for sure that it never, like in all the other incarnations, it never got sent to them.
No, I don't know for sure.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm asking is,
No, that's a good question because to our knowledge, they've never asked them before about anything.
so
But we don't know one way or the other.
Which then
No,
begs
we
the
don't know for
question:
sure.
if you send a special act, right, with all your what the council voted on, and you send it to the legislature without conferring with the plaintiffs or litigants or whatever you want to call them, lawyers for civil rights, then why are we interested in what they think at this point?
So when the council sent this, the first time the council on this one,
The city solicitor and the city manager.
no, when they wrote it up the first time, they
Yeah.
didn't. None of the councilors said, "Hey, we should get this checked out."
That was 3 years ago or something.
No, this one isn't. This one's
You're missing what
Maybe
Jack
like a
is
timeline
laying
to
down.
fight for.
Jack is saying this was a stall tactic.
That's
What he's saying. You're completely over your head. Come on,
No,
you've talked to Jack long enough to. You should know what he's saying.
Don't you know the
stall.
game of moving the goalposts?
So why would the city council stall though?
Why would the city council stall?
Yeah,
I'm not too sure. Why
Can I-
would they do that?
because there's 11 members. None of them thought of this before.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that
Do they
none
think
of
of
them
it,
thought
or
of
did they-
before. Which I, in a few minutes, I'm just going to ask you guys to indulge me for 5 minutes as I fill in some blanks. But go ahead, Mick. You had a
No,
question.
fill in the blanks because you're probably going to answer my question.
You had some questions. Go ahead. Because we always forget. We forget your
Hopefully-
topics by the time.
Hopefully, this isn't a stupid question. It's about this.
Yeah.
So it's if we've had the same issue like 3 years ago and then 2 years ago, 1 year ago, whatever, similar issue, maybe not the exact same. There's communication and we ask questions and we get an answer, but nobody gets it in writing to like set a precedent for the next time it happens. It seems like. So is there like no follow through the 3 years ago to like establish a rule to?
Can I give you the cynical answer that I will explain in detail in a
Please,
few minutes?
please.
Because it always depends on whose ox is being gored.
Yeah.
Have you ever?
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of hypocrisy around it. But I do have one question, though.
I just texted you the letter.
Oh, from the.
So
from the
if you
plaintiff?
if you can bring it up, then you can show their. I don't know if you can screen share or whatever.
Not.
But if you
Just,
want,
if you sent it to me a half hour ago, I might have been able to do it. But all right, let's see their letter because it did have a nice little dig in there, right? That
The
you
letter
guys read.
did?
So, dear City Solicitor Williams, you have asked for plaintiff's position on S2762, which is the Senate bill, the currently pending Home Rule Petition, that would change how vacancies, certain, let me read that again. The Home Rule Petition that would change how certain vacancies are filled on Lowell City Council and School Committee. Plaintiffs do not object to this legislation, either in its current form or if the city chooses to make the technical amendments that we understand were suggested by Senate Council last month. In the future, we encourage the city to bring contemplated changes to its electoral system to plaintiffs' attention early in the process. In this case, the first time that S.2762 was discussed with us was on July 11th, 2024. Sincerely, Orrin M. Selmstrom, counsel for the plaintiffs, and he CC'd Daniel Fine from Ropes and Gray. So that's their little dig in there. In the future,
Bring
we
it to
prefer.
us earlier.
I got a question for you. How much longer do they get to run our elections?
I don't know. I think it's.
Our municipal elections.
That's a great question.
Does the consent, because look, the busing consent decree, right? There was talk about changing that and going back to neighborhood schools, and that was, 40 years later, that still holds. So are we going to have to ask these people? And who do we ask? And this is a serious question, although you're going to take it sarcastically.
Hey, you're going to joke about the plaintiffs all moving.
Well, yeah, exactly. Do they lose their status when they leave the city, as what 2/3 of them have? And eventually, if this sticks around 40 years ago, there could be a scenario where either none of them are living in the city anymore, or some of them have passed on. Who do you go to for guidance?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
First part. The litigants at the time had standing, right?
Okay.
So the court then acknowledged that they had standing, and then there was a process and a consent decree. It's not the individuals, they were harmed, that's how they have standing, but they are really just like random samples of a group of people, right? So to say that Joe Johnson, which is not one of the names in real life, moved to California, right? That it doesn't make any difference anymore because Joe Johnson doesn't live here. No, because there's some facsimile of Joe Johnson times 20,000 in these districts. So I think the court has standing to represent all the people that Joe Johnson was sort of representative
Okay.
of.
So unless the city moves to say, okay, we've fulfilled all the initial things and we've implemented the system, can we now be released from this? Because I guess that's what has to happen, right? Not that anybody's talking about doing it right now, but that's the only way you can avoid in the future, if you do make any changes to your election system, getting their permission. Am I reading that correctly? I only play an attorney on podcasts.
I have a million answers because I read a lot and think a lot, but I don't want to just.
No, please. You know more about this than
you were close. You were part of the. You weren't part of the litigation, but you were very close to
George
the people.
𝒊𝒏𝒕, who was
the original
a
attorney.
precursor to Orrin Sellstrom, showed up. I gave him some names of some people to talk to, right?
So what does that mean? Does that mean that?
We're stuck with this shit.
Yeah. Does that mean do we have to start over?
I don't think that it does.
So my guess is that when they try to change to a strong mayor, they'll say it doesn't matter anymore.
That's where I was going.
Because that's the goal here, right?
So that is, where you potentially move back to where you were, which is the disadvantaged people in districts may lose their power and will never get a mayor if history plays itself out, right?
Let's give Lowell back to Belvedere, but at least we can,
Is it okay for Batch to connect dots in a paranoid fashion and?
Oh yeah, it's so paranoid.
You'll have to ask him.
No, we just
So
the thing
paranoid.
was is that the pregame, right? He was accusing me of being paranoid and connecting dots that don't exist, and you just did it.
All right.
It's got nothing to say because, like,
I'm just saying, that's gonna
That's Teddy's fault.
I partially agree with.
Wait a minute. Why are you throwing a barb at me? What did I agree with what Batch said.
I partially agree with what you're saying.
I agree with it 100%.
Don't go.
This thing will be.
That's the danger of going to a strong mayor is once again because we're 2 elections in to the new system and the trend is moving in a bad direction for civic engagement in the disadvantaged neighborhoods.
It's one data point. In statistical analysis, you need 3.
Yeah, well,
it's 2, right? You had
right,
one.
right.
You had a big turnout.
All we have is 2 elections that we can go on. And boy, was it a big drop between the. Now, hopefully, we get some challengers in the next election and bump up the turnout again. But it's so far, it hasn't done what it was intended to do.
For the last several elections, the 2009 fair vote one with the ranked choice voting, that was the high water mark. I think it broke 14,000, and then somewhere in between there, it was just over 10,000. I don't think it ever got below 10,000, but the voter turnout hovers around 11.5 generally.
And bumped up significantly for the high school debate. It was like 13 something, I believe, for the high school location. But generally, you're right. It's between 11 and 11 and a half generally.
So civic engagement is down, but you're still having neighborhoods that are much more diverse represented in the end result in the council, rather
Well-
than most of them being from Belvedere, which happened in prior elections.
No, I mean, I like the district representation. I think
Me
it's,
too.
I mean, but nobody that's in district right now cracked 600. I'm sorry.
And that sucks.
Somebody cracked 600. Nobody's cracked, let's say 700.
And that sucks. That you want to see more people coming out for candidates.
Well, you would like to think, but again, I give people more credit than most people do. I think they're a little bit smarter about what really matters. And it's not that Jack is going to lose it once he gets off his phone, but
No, I'm
the
trying to find
the
the
local
language from
issues don't really affect people's lives as much
Excuse me?
as they used to.
No, I completely disagree.
You're going to give me the whole they turn on the street lights and they take your garbage and this and that discussion?
I mean,
Who educates your kids? Where does the money for your education? The most important thing in any community, the biggest part of any budget is education. Where does most of that
So
money
here's
come
what I'll
from?
say.
A city like Lowell. From the feds to the states to the city.
We reel this back into a second. I know what I've been looking at my phone, but you wanted to know how long could the plaintiffs hold up?
How long do we have to ask them
All right,
for
so
permission? Because what jumped out at me is they said, you ask us for permission next time and do it soon.
that. And as empathetic as I am to the plaintiffs, I think that's bull hockey. All right. And I'll read a section of I'm not an attorney, right? But section W of the consent decree says,
Wait, they got to a section W?
yep.
that's
The court reserves jurisdiction of this matter to enforce the provisions of this decree and for such further relief. Sorry, I don't have my glasses in this small.
you better
Turn it this way.
turn it that way, and then you can see the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Listen, at least he's not getting up to go to the bathroom so far in the middle of this.
No, not really. Sorry. Such relief as may be appropriate in connection with the lawsuit. Right? Plaintiffs retain the ability and right to seek relief from the court or any other court of competent jurisdiction to ensure compliance with this decree. So basically they're saying, like, we still have a lifeline to the decree, right? But what does the decree speak to? The limits
great
of the
question.
elements of the decree. Now,
And so the decree doesn't speak at all to the succession plan, right?
the decree doesn't speak to many different
Right,
things.
exactly.
Since
So they don't get any say in it.
I'm an insider, right? That's why you have me here. I was very involved in a
Yes.
lot of the discussions about this, right? And I distinctly remember, and if we went through all the LTC stuff and maybe we could find it if somebody wants to pour hours into it, right? But the plaintiffs intentionally stayed out of sort of the nooks and crannies of our charter. They were just hitting two major topics. One was the 8-3, because they gave us a choice, right? We had 8-3, or there's another choice that was more districts, but it was all at large. The other was 8-3, and then the other was something like 3 districts with 3 counselors, in that the 3 counselors would be selected from ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
Because my liberal friends can't help but shoot themselves in the foot by trying to jam ranked choice voting in. All
Shoot
right.
themselves in the foot. That's one of the few ways they can win certain elections.
Okay, thank you. I just editorialized, now you editorialize, right?
But I thought you said local stuff doesn't matter, so who cares?
I don't think these things, I think that the plaintiffs only have something actionable to take in a court of the proper jurisdiction, whatever it is that they say, right?
Well, unless you send them a
Is
fruit
if you
basket.
try to change the 8-3,
It's going to take 2 of them.
Okay.
or I would say if you try to gerrymander the districts, okay? Because the shaping of the districts is very much detailed how it gets done, right?
Yes.
So, I know for a fact, because some of my Latino friends wanted to try to figure out how to make one of the majority districts be majority Latino.
Yeah,
And the only way you
that
could
work
do
out for
that,
them?
it didn't work
Not
out.
very well.
Right. So the one that Paul Ratayem is close. All right. Sakari's district is disproportionate, but it still is, Southeast Asian to Latino.
Is downtown part of that sausage district? The one where it's all the leftover pots?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes from back central, but it's still contiguous, geographically contiguous. It meets the criteria.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right. You can not like it, but
Well, no,
meets the criteria.
but
But
it's imperfect. Hey, you got most of them right.
before it was all resolved and the plan was sort of officially adopted, right? There was an effort to look to see if you could connect the acre to Lower Belvedere to Lower Centerville, right? To try to create a Latino majority. But it would have not been sort of a contiguous geography. It would have been gerrymandered. And so it wasn't really a viable option. So I think that's where the plaintiffs have standing.
All right.
Okay.
So they can change it to strong mayor without getting involved.
No, that's one change that I think they'll want to talk about.
No,
but
no, it's not. It's
this particular.
No, if they don't, no, we have a mayor, right? And look, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I'm not advocating for a strong mayor. Until we can get 20,000 voters in a city election, I don't think we should do it, right? But the 8-3 is what we have. Now, if we went to 8-2 at large, and then we elected the mayor, it's still 8-3. It's still within the confines of the, right?
Do you think having a strong mayor would make more people vote?
Yes.
certainly in Belvedere.
Yes, that's not.
But in other
That's why they-
Yeah, be careful what you wish for with that 20,000 voters, because 5,000 of them
Yeah, I mean, that's-
may come from
Well,
one.
because I don't know, there might be more of an incentive if someone that you know is running for mayor. Is
100% that would increase the.
so why don't we just do that?
Because you don't want one day. You don't want
voter engagement.
You don't want
right?
one neighborhood running the city again.
That was the whole.
But
I
the
thought that
mayor-
was the whole point of the
But the mayor
legal
doesn't
challenge.
really run the city.
If you go strong mayor.
Yeah, because you get rid of the city manager. I mean,
Oh, you're talking about doing it for the ceremonial mayor as opposed to the
Yes.
strong mayor.
no, because
That's
strong mayor.
one thing we can
Yeah.
try.
Strong mayor means get rid of the city manager. And have
Oh,
them-
sorry,
Yes,
that's not what
that's
I
right.
meant.
You think there's cronyism and nepotism now? Imagine having a strong mayor. It'd be every
I would
2
not
years.
want
It'd be a
that.
whole.
Why did you bring those words up?
Huh?
Those words were from the last podcast. By the way, we make a difference, by the way. Have you noticed that the tone on social media has gotten much more friendly
yeah.
in the last month since our last pod?
Unless you're on the,
I'd like to think we had something
unless
to do
you're on
with
the
it.
zoning board.
But I don't think the plaintiffs needed to be addressed here.
I don't think so either. But they're either they're just doing it to get a good dig in for being asked at the last minute, or they're saying, yeah, can you ask us in the future and do it sooner? So that's something that's going to have to get figured out.
I bet they get a couple of fruit baskets to put that in.
I don't know. Maybe they watched the city council meeting where the solicitor said that he had already reached out to them, and then they were sort of saying, "No, pal, you didn't."
But can't they just come up with a decision and so that the decision speaks for all future times that this happens, so you don't have to keep bothering them about individual situations?
No, because, and we'll talk about this when we talk about a special election. There's still things that need to be worked out that might fall under their purview if they're willing, if they want to get involved in the weeds.
Okay.
But
We haven't brought any of that to them yet because we're not sure if they need to get worked out yet.
well, I'm not sure anybody's thought about some of the details about a special election, and when they do, the devil's always in the details.
And
Right.
who's the people that didn't think about it? You're talking about the city council that
city
started
council, yeah.
the process.
Yeah.
Well, all of them.
And you're talking about a city solicitor that didn't shepherd sort of their orientation.
Actually, you know what? That's a nice little segue. Thank you, Jack Mitchell. You're watching the Pod Squad here on Inside Lowell. I'm Teddy Panos. We're in the Well Point Studios with Jack Mitchell, Mikaela Bach, and Mike Bacigalupo. I'm going to ask you guys to indulge me for 5 minutes here.
But before you segue,
Oh,
though,
wait.
let me just clarify something. We all
the breaking news.
agree that
Oh, we still have to do that.
I think we all like district representation, right?
100%.
I 100% love it.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the best thing that's happened in the city in a long time.
And some of us like special elections too, and have all along, not just when our ox is the one being gored.
No, I'd prefer a special election.
But just 5 minutes here, because I want to fill in. We published last week a timeline of the Home Rule Petition. Beautiful. It had a
Very good
descriptive
timeline.
timeline. It had a chronological
I love
timeline.
that.
Links to all these. It was a great piece, but it was missing some things and some context that I think will, bring to light that, maybe some of the folks who are on certain sides of issues now, maybe we're on a different side somewhere.
Wait, say that again?
Yeah. So, all right.
Give him 5 minutes. He needs 5 minutes.
Yeah, I need 5 minutes for this setup here. But let me just, so first to start, I think it's important that I'm going to repeat this again, and I have always said it. To fill vacancies on the Lowell City Council under district representation, you should have special elections. You should always have had special elections. You should have done it a lot sooner instead of worrying about it in April of 2024 when a certain councilor applied for a job and suddenly the lone wolf, me, I was the only one talking about this for years publicly, and maybe there were people on Lowell Live Feed Forum who were, but I was talking about it on the radio constantly. When I talked to a counselor, I would talk about it. When we got close to election season, I would talk about it. When we talked to a city manager, I would talk about it.
What was your reason for wanting that?
Because I think you should have special elections.
Why?
Because in the district races.
Yeah.
Because a district race, you were inevitably going to have a scenario where somebody ran unchallenged, unopposed, which happened. It didn't take long, but it happened. And also, I just think that's the right way, because in a state rep race, to give you an example, in 2022, Rodney Elliott ran against Carla Miller.
Oh,
if for some reason Carla Miller if Rodney Elliott didn't finish his term, right, decided to move to Idaho because he likes bike lanes, do you give the seat to Carla Miller because she was in second?
Right.
Do you give it to 𝒍𝒍𝒑𝒐𝒊𝒏𝒕 because she was second in the Democratic primary and the Democrat won?
Yeah.
A district seat should have been filled a certain way. And I talked about this from the get-go, and until Greg Pappas came to the city of Lowell in 2022, I don't remember any officials, electeds, or anybody talking about that.
Now, you mean instead of the second place too, right?
Instead of the second place in a district race.
Or if they're uncontested.
And in uncontested, you don't have second place. But special elections are the way to go.
Just to add something, the difference between the all at-large system, where you were just going down the list, right, is that voters, that system is a sort of like a lazy version of ranked choice voting.
Right.
Okay? Because voters can pick up to 9 counselors. So it made sense to just cascade down the list.
It was like a couple hundred votes between 9th and 12th place.
That's right.
Like a default.
But
2011.
for a district, you're not just voting for Counselor A or candidate A who becomes counselor if they win, right? You're voting against candidate B.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And a lot of times,
Very different.
and a lot of times,
See, I didn't think of it.
and a lot of times it's like 500 to 30.
I did not think of it that way.
They're not close.
And you also might have a different pool of candidates if they know they're not going against candidate A.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So we all agree.
that's
Special
the- so
elections.
we all agree.
Special elections. Okay, great.
Yes, we all
Well,
agree.
look at us agree.
So
You
let's
only use 2 minutes so far.
let's go back to you guys took a lot of. I
We did,
yielded
we did.
some of it, so I want it back.
Sorry.
Okay.
You take it.
So when did we start talking about the litigation and consent decrees? Was it about 2017, right after the high school location?
Well, I was
battle?
talking about it after fair vote I got a charter review task force, right? And then it got passed by the council. And then my good friend, Bernie Lynch, strangled it in the crib, right? And it went nowhere.
Bernie strangled.
Okay. Yeah,
Ranked choice voting?
he didn't. No, not ranked choice voting. The charter review.
Okay.
Bernie did not want a charter review task force, right?
Strangled it in the crib. I like that.
Yeah, that's
Very Hercules.
before it gets
Is that Hercules?
before it grows, right?
The snakes.
That's right. So then, when you hear some of these counselors or state reps or whatever they are at this point talk about how they were champions of the consent decree, they did nothing from the time that charter review task force was assassinated
Ooh. Nice. Good play on
to
words.
when the lawsuit was registered.
Correct.
So when you start to hear people talking about the past as someone that was astute as to what was going on, we started talking about it.
So when did the lawsuit get filed and they
don't-
really start entering into negotiations and
Don't call yourself
when they were strong?
Don't call yourself a stoop.
Somewhere between 2017, after we fought about the high school, and 2019, when we put it on the ballot as a non-binding referendum, the change to district representation came about. Now, refresh my memory. Politically, the politically, among those who had some political clout and among those who were already elected, where did the opposition come from to district representation? We were all fans of it. Jack, you and I were on the same team for one of the few times in our history. We worked together with strange allies, people I fought over the high school location with. Suddenly we became allies on district representation, which is, well, that's politics.
Yeah.
You battle, you vote, and then you move on and try to make the city a better place. But where did most opposition come from?
I think from one of the majority districts.
No, it did not.
No,
No, it did
was
not
I
come
wrong with
from
that?
the Acre. It did not come from
Let's list all the places
the
it didn't
Highlands
come from.
or South Lowell or downtown.
No.
It came from Belvedere.
It wasn't the bleacher.
Right. As a matter of fact, Jack, there were 9 councilors at the time when they had to vote to ratify the final consent decree, and it was an 8-1 vote in favor. The one vote against it, and he bragged about it right up until 2021's first district election, was Dave Conway. I don't think we should change. I think it's working well.
Right.
Dave Conway was the one no vote. Dave Conway lives in Belvedere. Okay. Now, a couple of other counselors, very good, you guys are following along. A couple of other counselors, while voting yes, did so while expressing some dismay, saying, you know, I don't like I think district representation works. I mean, I think at-large works, and we're representing everybody in the city and blah, 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 but we're being strong-armed and we have to go along. I'm paraphrasing it. One of those, because I talk to him on the radio all the time, John Leahy from Belvedere, right?
Yeah.
Rita Mercier.
But they still voted at least.
Belvedere, but they still voted for it.
Which I give them credit
Bill Samaras, who was actually mayor at the time that a lot of this was going down. I don't, I think this current system is great, but we don't have but we don't have a choice. So, but
They didn't have a choice.
People, exactly. If they had a choice, you would not have district representation.
No.
They had to get strong-armed by the law.
That's right.
By a federal judge. Right or wrong, whatever you think of that ruling, if it were not for the judge telling the solicitor, you're going to lose this case, so find a way to negotiate.
It's totally uncool to use terms of violence in the
No, please,
present day, right?
We're toning down the rhetoric.
I used to say that the council would never move on this until someone held a gun to their head. And the lawsuit was the proverbial gun to the council's head.
And it especially wouldn't have moved when 5 of the 9 councilors were from Belvedere.
So Dave Conway was the only one that was like, I don't care about the law, I'm going down with the ship.
Yes, I admire that. He said, I'm voting no on it. And he told you. But again, we've established that when there was opposition to the change to district representation, it came from Belvedere. Now then, they signed the consent decree, and in March of 2021, and this is from the timeline, InsideLowell.com, you don't have to take my word for it, you can see the actual timeline, City Councilor Vezina Noon filed a motion, March 23rd, 2021, asking the solicitor to craft a home rule petition for how you do succession in
okay. So this was in 2021.
Yes, in 2020, March of 2021, 3 years and 3 months ago.
So it's like, why couldn't we get an answer? But
hold on, because this is why some of the kabuki theater we're seeing in May, June, and July of 2024 goes back to whose ox is being gored.
Yeah.
Solicitor Christine O'Connor at the time crafts the petition. Ooh. And by the way, which has been told to us is a poorly worded petition, because it basically was asking, it wasn't making it apply to Lowell, it was making it apply to any other community in Massachusetts that has the Plan-E form of government.
That's shocking.
And so the state legislature said, screw you guys, you're idiots. But anyway, so Councilor Noon files this motion in March of 2021, and I want to read the petition that was voted on by the City Council. Section 1, following the last sentence of Chapter 230 of the Acts of 1954, that the following sentence be added. Quote, in the event that no such candidate exists, this is in the event that there's no runner-up candidate, the vacancy shall be filled by a joint session of the City Council and the school committee through a public application process. Section 2, this act shall take effect upon its passage. So what they're telling you is, if there's somebody who finished second in the district race, they're getting that seat. if there's nobody who finished second, the city council and the school committee will get together and appoint it. That was the petition that was filed on May. It was approved in like May of 2021, and it was unanimously passed 9-0
by that city council at that time.
by the city council at that time.
You can't include the school committee of that.
No, the school committee gets included if there's a school committee
They did
vacancy
that
under those
for. They
circumstances.
did that for.
Oh, all right. I thought you meant.
City council.
Fred,
Yeah, yeah.
They did
Yeah.
that for Ray,
Yeah.
the real estate Ray, and they did that for League.
That's on the vote, yeah.
Right.
It's a school committee.
That's
A school
No, they
committee
did it-
vacancy, the school
Right.
committee has to get
They
involved.
didn't do that for any school. We haven't had a vacancy
No.
on this. Our
No, we had Susie.
We had one, but,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
and
they
that's-
used the old system, and she came in second, so she got the seat. When Dakota,
Correct.
Andre Dakota,
Correct. So I just read that home rule petition that 9 city councilors
Voted
passed.
for it. Yeah.
What 2 words are missing from that home rule petition?
I love this game.
What two words were nowhere near that
Special.
that
election.
succession? Very
Did I get it right?
special
Nicely
election.
done.
You know,
So
I pay attention.
the city council in 2021 unanimously passed a home rule petition that didn't give a fuck about the will of the people. Sorry, excuse my French. Will of the people, my ass, the council's going to make this appointment.
was that an all at-large council that did
It
that?
was.
That was the all at-large
Correct,
council that did
correct. And it had.
I mean, let's just be clear.
Right, no,
It's a good point to
but
make.
We had
it's a
5.
very valid point to
But
make.
Very valid point.
let's count the Belvedere residents on that council, shall we?
Oh wow, this is good.
Bill Samaras, the mayor. John Leahy, who would
2020?
become the district councilor. Actually, John Leahy was the mayor. Bill Samaras was the previous mayor. Rita Mercier, who lives in Belvedere. John Drinkwater, who lived in Belvedere. And Dave Conway. 5 of the 9 councilors lived in Belvedere.
So who would they appoint?
And they didn't care about a special election.
Right.
They didn't. Neither did any of the others.
You know why?
Dan Rourke.
Because people always cry poor mouth that it costs extra money. Maybe you're not paying attention.
Oh,
to
that's
stuff.
what it
That
was
is
about.
one of that's partly. I'm not saying that's the reason. That's one of the reasons because I pay attention. Teddy.
It wasn't because
The cost of special elections was always whined about. Because I can tell you, I don't know how many times I've said there is no real cost to democracy.
Some folks are saying that right now, but held different stances
this
in
could be a little
2021.
bit. This could be a little bit different, right?
I'm
Because
consistent.
if it's an at-large system and you have an at-large special election, it might cost more than if you have a district representation system and you have a smaller.
that was-
This is just for districts. This is just for districts in which there was no runner-up. Everybody was perfectly
Oh, got
okay
it. Okay.
in 2021 with the runner-up getting the seat, or if there was no runner-up, as there is no runner-up now, the city council making that appointment, including a lot of Belvedere residents who now suddenly want a special election.
This is going longer than 5 minutes.
Well, because you guys, I keep giving you guys some time. But let's.
We also have some breaking news.
Is it pointing out some inconsistencies already?
No.
So 5 councilors from Belvedere passed this, along with 2 councilors who get a lot of their electoral strength. Vesna Noon and Sokari Chow from Belvedere, Rodney Elliott and Danny Rourke were Pawtucketville. They just went along okay. The home rule petition was filed to the House of Representatives in Massachusetts on July 2nd, 2021.
Okay.
Which state representative filed it? Was it the
Tom
dean?
Golden.
No, it was not Tom Golden. Good guess though, because he was the dean of the delegation.
Roddy.
It probably should have been
No,
given to
Rodney
him.
wasn't
No,
on
Roddy
it.
No, it was Tom Golden, Ratty Mom, and
Kevin
Vanna
Murphy.
Howard
So it's Roddy
in
Mom.
2021. Nope, it was not Ratty Mom.
So it's Vanna Howard.
Nah.
Vanna Howard filed it. Well, and somebody said to me, I don't know why they didn't ask Tippa. And I'm like, well, probably because Vesna Noon filed the motion in the council. Vesna Noon is tight with Vanna Howard, and probably, she decided to file it, or he asked her to file it.
And they're gonna.
On their
Any of them
behalf.
are gonna do it anyways.
And where's Ed Kennedy in all this? You
well,
gonna get to it?
Oh, I'm coming in.
No, I know.
I'm coming in. But
I understand.
but
It's time for vengeance and whatever that.
the House representative, Vanna Howard, represents which district? Belvedere, right? That's her district, right?
Yes.
So Vanna Howard filed it, and she files a piece of legislation that doesn't call for a special election. And Tom Golden doesn't object to it. Ratty Mom doesn't object to it.
She filed the legislation
Correct.
that was through the city
The
council.
city council, correct.
She doesn't get to go in there and go,
This is my opinion.
That's
a very-
oh yeah,
okay.
throw this line.
So that's a good point.
And,
yeah,
and,
but
Ed,
now
and Ed
it's just-
Kennedy didn't. Ed Kennedy
doing the will of
was
the
also in
That's
the
right.
Senate.
She's just
Yeah, you don't. They
she
don't.
is just a mailman at the.
But none of them spoke out. So, as Belvedere residents, we don't think it's fair that that people from other districts or district
I think
councils
that's
are
putting an
selecting
unfair
our representative.
burden of expectation.
I'm just pointing out that nobody objected to the fact that this legislation didn't have special elections, and there were
And by
people,
that you mean the neighborhood.
the
Belvedere
neighborhood, and the
Yeah,
elected officials.
I really like you decided you knew what I thought and you said it out loud. So let's strip off your
Hold on, we're not done.
subterfuge and just
We're
get
not,
to
no,
what
we're
you
not done yet. We're not done yet.
All right.
The home rule petition dies because it's poorly worded, right?
It was poorly worded.
Did anybody rush to tell the city council at the time, different council, but did anybody
Sure.
rush to fix the wording?
Fix it, yeah.
It's an easy fix. All you have to
actually-
do is say only applies to Lowell, because that's what they did with the 2024 one.
Someone was talking to members on the council saying, hey, where is that legislation? Where is it? Why don't we check on it?
Good. So you joined my crusades to settle this matter before
Well,
we end up
I
in a
think in
situation.
part what happened, and I'm speculating here, right, is that they didn't want to admit that they screwed the pooch on this special act,
Or that's one scenario.
right?
Or
So everybody just whistles past the
And forget
graveyard,
about
right?
it?
But it wasn't until all of a sudden we had to figure out a way to replace one, John Leahy getting a job wherever he could manage to get it.
Well, the suit.
Two, if somebody gets convicted in a criminal court, or three, if Sakari
Goes for
wins the lottery.
Well, but it came up before that.
Because right now, all right, there's still thoughts about Centerville becoming vacant. John Leahy has created a vacancy. Good for you, John. You got your wish. You worked real hard for that. And now Sakari is about to turn over.
Oh, no, he's going to finish his term.
Yeah, because
Even after
and
he's
you know
elected.
what? Like here we go. He's gonna screw Justin Ford, like Ed Kennedy screwed him.
Well, no, because we're now going to we're setting the precedent of a special election within the next few
Well, I
days.
mean, I would have been opposed to that just because the at-large councilors shouldn't be making this decision. It should be the first
Correct.
district council that makes this decision.
Correct. But nobody thought about this for close to 3 years, right?
It's odd. Nothing really percolated until after the court situation with Corey
Well,
Robinson.
no, when
Then
Andy.
all of a sudden things got hot and heavy.
No, this came up with Andy. This first came up when Andy.
Correct.
that was back then.
No, it was after
In
the.
March of 2022, Andy Dakota stepped down and was replaced by Susie Chun.
Right, that's when it
from the
should have been
school
like,
committee.
hey, we got to
What
settle this.
neighborhood, by the way?
That's South
That's a
Lowell.
combined district.
Oh, yeah, South
even know.
Lowell.
South Lowell and Belvedere.
Yeah.
And nobody thought about a special election again. I'm sorry. I keep getting
Why
stuck
don't you
on
just
that.
why don't you just
Let's
shit
finish.
on Belvedere?
Let's finish.
Oh no, I'm not necessarily shitting on Belvedere.
You are.
Because
think it's the system that
because I believe Belvedere should select its next representative. I just think that there was a long period of time where Belvedere might have thought, you know what, the appointment part of it is okay because
we're the majority.
because they might have wanted some say, through the at-large Belvedere councilors in who the District 2 councilor is. So
Right.
if it's Corey Robinson, or the District 6, if it's Okari Chow. I'm thinking that there's just too much time passed where nobody gave a shit about a special election, again, except for me and Greg Pappas. You didn't bother to get involved in that, whether special election or whatever.
Well, yeah, they had three.
you had
votes.
other battles.
No, what I was involved in having conversations and trying to sort of like inform and influence, lobby, if you want to use that word, right? But that's what came out.
Well, if you're Belvedere, I mean, you're like, hey, we already have 3 votes because these at-large people are going to want to stay. We each have to find 3 more votes. Might as well keep it this way.
That's one possibility.
That's how I look at
Jack's
it.
possibility is another one. I can't ascribe motives to certain people, but
I will.
Well, you do it with me, no problem.
yeah, that's easy.
Right, but people with power, you're gonna be like.
Well, I don't know. I just kind of went down a list of things and kind of named a couple of elected officials who
there's more to
didn't
this.
seem to care.
There's more to this
Well,
story.
so finally, this city council, to their credit, despite a district council again ignoring us in 2022 and 2023, it wasn't a secret. Every single one of them, I asked them, like, what the hell are you guys going to do about this replacement thing? You've got to do it, and sure enough, people ran unopposed the last time, and still they waited until 2024. Now maybe they were waiting for the new council to make the decision.
Remember when Sakari was war chesting, creating a war chest, and his balance was running up, and we started talking about what his intentions were, and we started talking about, like, how do you fill that vacancy, right? And so I know that this has been talked about, and before November of last year, I had a pretty good relationship
But
with.
special elections weren't talked about.
I know.
That's the part all of a sudden.
Do you know why?
We now care about
Do you know
special
why?
elections?
Because even though they put the consent decree up, not many of the councilors, particularly the at-large councilors, know really anything about the intention of the consent decree. They are completely tone deaf to what the consent decree is trying to do.
Well, shame on them. But thankfully,
We elect them.
it was April 23rd.
I used to.
April 23rd, we finally hear the words special elections in a home rule petition. And it gets sent what was it? May something. It gets sent to the Senate.
Late May.
And suddenly there's a great rush. Suddenly, despite the fact that a dead home rule petition just sat there, they just let the body
years.
float in the swimming pool for 3 years. It was poorly worded. It was dead. The House killed it. It was refiled with the exact same wording in January of 2023. It was refiled with the exact same wording. Nobody thought to change even the wording that would have given it a fighting chance to
Why?
be passed.
Because they didn't want to embarrass the process that was held initially.
But if you're refiling,
Because by having it float dead in the pool, you could sleep with a pool boy, which means you get to choose. You get to choose.
But
the
once it was-
district
once it
when it was
representative.
I kind of
refiled,
like that.
I think once it was clear that the powers that be weren't going to get their selection, that's when all this shit started.
And I'm finally done. But
Yeah.
on April 16th, the city councilor from the neighborhood that is featured very prominently in this discussion
Yes.
first
I
called
didn't mean to jump your thing.
the ethics commission and asked, hey, can I apply for this job? We now know that because when the letter was shared with me, the response from whoever the ethics commission person was said, you call on April 16th. Here it is. I'm giving it to you in writing. April 16th. Now, the council was going to...
forgot out. That's an important part of that letter, where the lawyer at the desk said, based on all the information that you have provided to me, this is my opinion.
Correct. Which means there could be a ruling should somebody challenge it. And I'm willing to bet that somebody will file a challenge to it.
I'll take that bet.
Yeah. But coincidentally, the council, because it takes some time in committee, April 23rd is when the council put this on the agenda and voted to pass a home rule petition that called for a special election, sort of. Year 2, still council appointment. Because nobody, for whatever
now the
reason,
power dynamics
council
have
appointment.
changed.
But all of a sudden, April 23rd, by this point, people have started to chatter to us. We all know that, John Leahy's going to apply for that school job. And we didn't find out that John Leahy had gotten that job or that he was resigning until
When did
July,
he apply for
whatever.
the job to be work in Westford?
I don't know. But
He talked about it on CAP.
yeah,
he's been doing it for a while.
But again,
Nobody would hire him, though,
This-
except for Lowell.
this highlights some of the hypocrisy, though, right?
so I think
that John Leahy had been kicking the tires on a number of jobs for years,
For 5 years at least.
and nobody thought about a special election.
Well, yeah, it's because it's really hard to people don't usually hire out of town people in all communities, not just Lowell.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know. I have a friend that lives in North Reading but works in Andover.
Oh, that one example proves everything then.
Well, I mean, you just said it did.
It doesn't usually happen. It's easier to get a job in
I
your
don't
own
know.
community.
There was a bunch of people that work in City Hall when Bernie Lynch worked here, and they didn't live in the
I'm
city
sure
of
there were
Lowell.
no connections at all.
All right.
And nobody that works in Lowell has any connections.
There were connections to Bernie Lynch.
Yeah,
but
exactly. I mean,
there was nepotism and cronyism
Listen,
of people who knew Bernie Lynch.
you show me
protect.
you show me anybody in the city, and I guarantee I can find maybe not any, the majority of people I can find a connection.
Who was one of Bernie Lynch's assistant city managers, his top assistant city manager?
Adam Bakey.
Adam Bakey, who was kind of connected to who?
I don't know.
Marty Meehan, who was Bernie Lynch's college roommate, I found out, right? Where did Adam Bakey go when it was clear that Bernie Lynch lost the city council and he was going to resign? He went to UMass Lowell, right?
Right.
Nepotism or UMass Lowell hiring a qualified
I don't know.
person?
If we can go back, there's a picture. There's a picture of Phil Shea
networking and
sitting in the
connections.
Athenian corner.
Yeah.
There's a picture of Tom Golden.
Friends go out to lunch and have dinner.
Sitting,
They go to the cousins.
It's critical, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a problem if someone's unqualified.
No,
We've established that.
We had this. But my whole point is, I'm glad that everybody is finally joining me for special elections. And let me make clear one more time, Belvedere, I want you to be able to pick your city councilor. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to get to pick your city councilor. After all this drama, I think you're going to get your special election, because I think this is going to the Senate like before the end of the week. If it hasn't already, it will go to the Senate, and then it will go to the House, and it will probably get moved pretty quickly. And then we are going to have to figure out, well, how are we going to run this special election?
Fine.
What if 3 people put their name on the ballot? Do we have a primary?
oh, God help us.
No, you just pick whoever gets the most votes.
My understanding is the city charter calls for a primary.
Why was it? I forget why.
Oh, it's preliminary, right?
Preliminary.
What's
okay.
the threshold? How did they figure out the threshold?
Oh,
I forget.
Jesus.
It's pretty effed up.
But the way the council talked about it 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago was there will be no preliminary. We're just going to go right to a special election if we do it.
This is ridiculous.
Opinion.
I just
Okay.
gotta say.
Okay. The consent decree and is like, you think what you do is you think of the original charter and then they pile on, and what they do is they go into the old charter and they change certain aspects of it. So stuff that isn't changed by the new layer is left intact, right? So every time there's a change, there's a new layer. The thing about special acts is that if the special act, the one that's there now, says that we are not going to have a preliminary, the enforcement or the enactment and signature of the governor of that special act writes out the charter. We're writing out parts of the charter every time we do a special act.
The charter of the city.
So the existing charter kind of thing, if you think of it
like
like
our
the
city
Constitution, United States
government.
Constitution,
Yeah.
right? Every time you do a special act, it is a law specific to the municipality that sends it.
Yeah.
So
Unless you don't write it properly and you're trying to force the legislature to vote on
Unless
it.
you're solicitor writes some
in the
crayons.
last city council
they
meeting,
fix that?
we knew what the
Well, they
because
got a lawyer in there now.
because what's his name 𝒔𝒆𝒍𝒑𝒐𝒊𝒏𝒕 brought up, and he read every single point of the Senate Council's critiques, right? And he brought up that we didn't write. They asked, to paraphrase, you didn't mention a preliminary. Right. Did you do that intentionally? We just want to double check.
Right. The Senate asked them to address that.
And Bill Galvin's office is already communed with the Senate Council. So they didn't say, oh, by the way, Lowell, you didn't put a preliminary in. You have to. They didn't say that.
Right.
So the city solicitor is somehow fidgeting through the charter saying, oh, now we have to have a preliminary because the charter calls for it. The special act will eradicate that part of the charter and put in that there is no preliminary for a special election, only for a special election, not for all the other elections.
Well, that's assuming that if it goes back to the Senate and the Senate becomes aware of this, that they say, screw it. We recommended 2 changes because they were inconsistent, but we're going to ignore this one that might be inconsistent.
No, you're trying to say that there'd be negligence because it's convenience.
But
The special act overwrites the existing charter. If the special act says for special election,
But the special act didn't address it.
it did.
it said
It didn't say
preliminary in
anything
it.
about
It didn't. No, the special
the
act did not speak to a preliminary.
Correct.
So you're saying
Right?
But the
because of
city
that-
charter does.
Right.
Okay.
But the city solicitor, if he had a reason to be concerned about the protection of the charter, should never have let that go with the messenger, whoever it was, to the State House. So if you want to talk about the circle of suggestions, why don't we ask, how did the special act, all right, how did it get to Beacon Hill past the solicitor? Ask that question.
So it wasn't brought up to the council before it went to the. So it got by the council and the
But
solicitor.
I would
On the
assume
floor-
the solicitor was in the subcommittee as it
Someone
was
was
being
probably
drafted and
dependent
actually
on-
drafted it.
On the floor in the council at the last meeting, the 3 points were brought up by Senate Counsel, by 𝒔𝒆𝒍𝒑𝒐𝒊𝒏𝒕. And the conversation was, we intentionally did not ask for a preliminary for the special election because the council asked, did you mean to do that? Because then we're good. If that's your intent, we just want to check. The language was not, yo, dum-dums, you need to have a preliminary because that's the way Mass General Law is, or that's way. That wasn't the statement. The statement was, did you intend to overlook a preliminary for a special election?
Right. So the council, I don't think the council intended to overlook it. I think they did. I think they. They did.
You can
Can we
speculate
stop?
all you
I'm so
want,
sick of
but
this.
I'm pretty
they
sure they
sent.
did.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
They sent.
Hold on, I got one more twist for
They
you.
sent that legislation. So by a vote, that is their will. That was their will.
Okay.
Okay.
So the manager can go ahead and sign it without, if any counselors have objection to
Why are we opening
to whatever, the manager can sign. Say screw it. We're going without a special
They
election.
took a vote. All of the people that are there now voted for the thing that in May.
2 weeks in May.
In May. That's what they voted
But
for.
they didn't address the issue of the special
What, do
election.
you want to have a motion to reconsider? A motion that was done in May?
Well, we did it the other day, didn't we?
Well, that's because the charter.
But it depends on whose ox
Right.
is being good.
Well, I mean, let's
all right.
the bottom line is we know what this is about.
There's going to be a special election.
What is it about?
And now we can get on with that drama. I'm telling you that
It's
will be a
about
special election.
about flagrant incompetency.
No, it's
and
about-
that depending upon whether you're on Team Rocket or with Pikachu, you decide which incompetency you want to point out. But let me just say that the incompetency, the buck stops at the solicitor, whether it's Christine O'Connor or Craig Williams is his name,
Corey Williams,
right?
If you're going to call someone incompetent, get their name right.
If that leaves their desk and they have not done their due diligence, sort of shame on the. This only
Can
actually.
I just say something? You could have put the whole thing in ChatGPT and said, "Hey, does this abide by the laws?" And it would have said no.
Hey, I
would've said,
said, by the
"You
way,
would've been fine."
I almost read, but for anybody out there crying tears for Belvedere, like a lot of the people in the crying tears, is a tissue
This
box.
actually
There's a lot of
makes a
there's a lot of
case
tears for Belvedere.
for the council having their own separate legal opinion.
I
And
don't
maybe
know
there
about
is actually a way where the council could have said, "Hey, let's stop this. We're going to hire," because they should have a lawyer, a contract. Could be Geary or somebody like that, right? Somebody
Good.
that everybody
Good luck
likes.
finding that person.
An inside guy, right? Like it's got to be, could be Ray Weicker, somebody from Lowell, right?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean,
No, that's where you're at, right? Like we're going to hire a Lowell lawyer
God,
to do
guys,
it.
come on.
I will say,
Wait, you just called the current solicitor incompetent, and yet he's not from Lowell. They went out and hired out. Was there nepotism there?
I'm sure he.
There certainly wasn't nepotism when they hired the last incompetent one, right?
Maybe we shouldn't.
But I'll tell you that. But
You don't
there's
think
a special
Pippen knew that
election.
kid?
So let's say there's a special election.
before we get there, the number one. This isn't about democracy. This is about the manager. This whole thing is about the manager.
Ding, ding, ding.
Right now, there's 6 votes to support the manager. 4 counselors
to
don't.
insulate the manager.
Four people are obviously against the manager, whatever they say. The 6 that tend to vote that way, they're going to lose one. They might lose Sakari. This is all about the control
Correct.
of the manager, the council, and whatever. That's what this is about. It's not about anything else.
Succinctly. And that explains a lot of the hypocrisy over the last 3-4 years on both sides.
And
okay?
On all sides.
On
yes.
all sides.
And when you said you know, like I have this hatred for Danny Rourke, right?
You
Because
kind of do.
I was partnered with him 2 years ago.
I know you were, but things changed.
Partnered?
Yeah.
Like in a square dance?
We were trying to do-si-do, yeah.
Do you guys need to tell us something?
Right?
Oh, I meant like in a square dance.
But my objection to Danny being the mayor was not, I wasn't sure if he could articulate on the chair, but I've got to say, I think
He's done a great
he's been doing generally a good job. He was a little bit grumpy and short-shrifted when he first started, but he's kind of pacified himself a little bit. His head doesn't glare red like I thought, because you know how Danny gets. He gets like all red.
I don't blame him.
mad, right? He does.
My head's about to get all red right now sitting
I
here.
think
If I have to deal with a Laura Ortiz fiasco every week and
God.
Norma Von Frickin and some of the nonprofit lecturers, I would kind of turn red too.
Hey.
I
Wait till the
generally
chickens
think
start acting up.
that Danny Ballgame is doing a good job in the chair.
So the 9 councilors who voted for him did a good job.
The reason why I didn't support him was there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, communication that happens, right? Mm-hmm. And I was concerned that Danny would work overtime to protect his cousin out of loyalty. Loyalty is a big thing in the city, right?
Family loyalty is number
Because no
number
other
one.
mayor protected a man.
I know.
No,
You're
they all-
trying-
it's
Look, let's just talk about. You can say that, right? Do you think who was mayor when Bernie got ran out of town? Right. No one was trying to protect Bernie Lynch.
well,
Oh
Belvedere.
no! At that point, Rodney Elliott became mayor.
Right.
Well, the powers that be.
But Bernie was being protected. Bernie was there for 8 years. Trust me, mayors protected Bernie.
the
Lynch.
people-
Corey Belanger got elected to the council that sent Bernie off. Right.
By the way,
Where are we going? Can we land this spaceship?
by the way, where is this connection of
God's
Tipper
sake.
and Corey Blanchett? There is no connection between Corey and Tipper. That's bullshit. There's
you
no.
might want to do your homework.
They're not related. Corey's got no family in Lowell really that's political. He's gone
Someone
all over
buy
the
batch
place.
of Heineken.
The insinuation
and
is that
explain to
Corey
him that
Belanger will do
connection.
whatever Tom Golden tells him to.
Yeah,
do.
that's
Jack's
That just,
argument.
well, that just feeds into
As you can tell on the you've written that. You've basically written that.
That just feeds in- that feeds
and that's what and other people don't like Corey Belanger because he's Corey Belanger.
Right.
Corey
It feeds-
Belanger is
He's a
not a
great
bad
guy.
He's not a bad guy.
Great guy. Great
I
guy.
actually.
Very, very nice
He
guy.
asked me for some advice on his campaign, and
we
I
are
met
friends,
with him
by the
and
way, I
gave
will
it
say.
to
No
him.
wonder he lost.
But it's part of the.
Well, maybe he should have listened to you.
It feeds the narrative of the 4. There is no connection.
Right.
I don't see it.
So let me land this plane. So we're going to get a special election.
Yeah.
Okay? And we all want the special election because every district deserves to pick their own representative, not just Belvedere.
And that is
Right.
the spirit
And-
of the consent decree, that the districts and doing it by appointment is effectively creating
you.
a proxy slate of an at-large system. Okay? It's a proxy at-large system allowing councilors from not the Belvedere, okay, to pick their counselor. And another thing is even though Belvedere is politically the most powerful neighborhood in the city,
Because they vote.
Okay.
Don't hold that against them that they vote.
No, they vote. They turn out.
Bravo to the people of
spaceship
Belvedere.
landed.
they still have the same rights
Yes.
as either of
Correct.
the two majorities
Yes.
districts. So we should be working, even though maybe they're bullies a little bit and they overpower some stuff, right? But we should protect their rights to select their representative.
Yeah,
Especially when it meets the needs of our.
Would there been as much passion in the Belvedere neighborhood or in other neighborhoods if
So you're
Corey
saying they don't
Robinson was-
deserve they don't deserve our protection?
No. They
That's
do.
not what he's saying.
What I'm asking is, do you think that some of the people who are so vociferous now
The answer is no.
about the
The answer
people
is-
having the right to pick
We all
would
know
be vociferous if, say, it was Danny Rourke who stepped down and
Hey.
the Pawtucketville, or if it was Corey Robinson, who you don't think certain people would say, no,
But
we're not putting Marty Hogan on
If,
this.
if this is what gets
There's no way Marty Hogan is getting on this city council. And then you would see the different oxes being gored. That's the whole point I'm trying to make.
That was part of the pressure to get this thing rolling again, because they didn't want Marty Hogan to sit on the
But
council.
if this is how the cat gets skinned,
I think it was a wake-up call. The two
Let's
people.
just go with it.
So special. Okay.
Let's go
Well,
with it.
how do we run this special election?
All you need is 2 boxes.
Do we
and one
pick a
school.
date? So we have to pick a date. My understanding is you can't do it on September 6th, which is the
Labor Day?
state primary.
Oh.
The reason
And you can't do it on November 5th, which is
Why
the
couldn't
federal
you do it on
election.
the
You can't.
that's not my understanding. My understanding is that they can be held on the federal elections. The problem with the September is, I'm told, and I'm going to put a caveat here, that the ballots are already printed or off to the printer. So we can't change anything.
Okay.
But for the November
Give them
election.
2
Can you
ballots.
just add a ballot?
I thought there was a
right?
law that you can't have a local
No, there's
election.
a lot of the smaller towns do their town election during the spring.
So just
in
add
the
a ballot.
spring, but they don't. Yes, but they don't do it. They don't do it during November, and they don't.
No.
I don't even think they do it on the day of the
September.
primary.
But when is the
The
when
presidential primary, when I voted in Chelmsford, I wasn't voting for my Chelmsford
in
select
Chelmsford.
people.
All right, how many municipalities?
sure?
I don't know. That's
How many municipalities are there in the Commonwealth?
I was told there was a state law. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
350 something towns, and there's 200 something.
351. 351.
And there's 200 something
municipalities.
superintendents.
All right.
Yeah, you heard it from one person. I've heard it from 2 or 3.
All right.
I'm not trying to best you there.
No, I could be wrong. I'm not an attorney, and as we've seen, we all thought an ethics ruling was going one way or an ethics opinion was going one way, and it went the other.
That's
What's a
because
big
of
day in
the
Belvedere?
But
Do it on-
wiggle
But
room.
okay, so we're
Wiggle
gonna
room.
let's pick a date, and for shits and giggles for this podcast, we'll pick Tuesday, September 20th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have them all in a market basket.
Are we gonna do early voting?
Oh, that's in Tewksbury.
Oh, fuck.
No, no.
Why not?
Because
Why not? We're gonna disenfranchise the people who can't get to the polls on September 20th.
Fine, do it.
It's already a special date.
Do a week of early
A
voting.
week of okay, good. How about mail-in voting?
Whatever, fine. Do
Sure.
it. Who cares?
Shouldn't do that anyway.
So we're gonna do early voting and mail-in voting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No
And-
preliminary. We got rid of the
Okay,
preliminary.
we got rid of the preliminary.
Yeah.
We
But now
said-
the actual election.
Now the actual election, so we will do early and mail-in voting as well for a municipal election.
Sure.
Even though well, we don't have mail-in voting for a municipal election, though, right?
I don't know. Do we?
Or do we?
No,
Oh, yeah, we do. You can do mail
Oh, you
ballots.
can you in a municipal?
I don't think so.
Yes, because I remember.
Believe so.
I remember
I know they do early voting.
in a previous campaign that I worked a
Maybe
lot
that was just maybe that was just COVID. Maybe that was just COVID.
of several many that early voters was
Okay.
we wanted to send targeted mail out to early voters. We wanted to send mail out before early voting started. Mail in, and I think mail, because we were talking to the elections office about how many, do we know who's asked for a
Let's go. Come on.
I get to your breaking news.
8:45.
Is it that late?
They're going to have to do something because by September, we're going to be in the middle of bird flu.
So we're gonna have.
Election.
So we're agreed that we're gonna do early voting and mail-in voting with the special election.
I prefer
And the
not.
council will be okay with that. Every council, we'll have
I
we'll
think-
get a consensus on the council.
So
Okay.
even though the charter might speak to this, where there are holes in the charter, the Mass General Law picks up.
Those are
right?
cigarette burns.
All right.
I think I thought they were.
What are we trying to get
It's written in
at?
the,
What are we
written in
trying to
the
get at?
50s.
I'm just saying that there needs to be some discussion about how this is gonna.
There's
be
lots
done.
of things to check off. the
Ballot
list before-
printing
yeah.
and so on and
I don't
so
know.
forth.
I don't know if the
and-
council really has to weigh in on this. If Mass General Law kind of sets the terms, then the new elections director, which as far as I know, we're getting very close on
They
replacing.
better. Pappas is gone in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
So.
and we may have they're already. He already said they said that they were already through interview. They're going through interviews and everything, right? So we're very close to having one. That person will just come in and say, no, this is what Mass General Law says. If you want a special election, pick the date and they'll execute it. They might have to track backwards the clock to say, maybe September 23rd, is that the one you picked?
I just
Yeah,
put
whatever.
it on
Right.
there.
Maybe that's too soon because of where we are. It might have to be October.
Ooh, now you run into
17th.
that 64-day period. You got to replace Leahy within 64 days.
That's true.
Why
Do you see how complicated this
Why do you
is?
have to
That's the-
replace Leahy?
So that's
in
what
the-
it is.
it's in
Rules.
the-
It's rules.
It's a rule.
Too many rules.
Isn't that what they were just talking about?
It has to be held within 60
Yeah,
I thought-
60 days. Yeah.
Well, then the timeline for all these things must be able to be executable within 64.
And I would just put the person that still lives here from the dissent decree, just put them in the press table at the council thing if they're gonna ask
Let
them
them
anything.
go. All right. Before we wrap this one up, because we did go over an hour, we're at an hour and 9 minutes, which is actually.
Is that it?
That's it. Yeah, it feels like a lot longer.
Yeah.
You have breaking news.
Okay. Well, Batch and I both have breaking news.
You're both going to break it together?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
This is
so you know how Biden said he would step down only if he was diagnosed with a medical condition.
Oh, yes.
So I want to make sure the camera's on you. Like, we got to get your reaction to this. So,
He has COVID.
yeah. He has
how'd
COVID.
you know?
Oh, while we were waiting for you guys
Oh,
to show.
shit,
We thought he's got COVID.
The question, because this is cockamamie, but I'll go down this road with you, right?
Which is horrible. I hope he
Let's
gets that.
just
I hope he
say-
gets that. It's horrible. But I just thought you would like.
gets
How
like
many
long-COVID,
vaccines did he
right?
quit after the
COVID is a gateway to a lot of different maladies.
Yeah. Like,
100%.
yeah. You end up wearing a mask in
And I
your
hope
car.
he's okay.
Dementia.
I just thought you especially
Oh, no.
on that.
Well,
like,
earlier today,
yeah.
I saw the statement where he said, where he
has a medical
opened the door. Because he's done, right? Your power brokers are not allowing the 14 million people
He's a
who
good
voted
man.
for him
He should just
have him in
relax.
there.
Yeah,
he
Trump
said,
had a legitimate
if I
primary.
get a doctor's, diagnosis, then that's the only way I drop out. He gets COVID. I'm willing to bet some doctors probably looking at him right now, coming up with some debilitating illness.
Yeah, you're right. He's been dead.
Long
He's been dead
COVID.
for years.
Parkinson's, dementia. They'll find something, and Joe will be gone. A week after the Republican connection.
Paranoid connecting of dots here.
What?
I'm sorry, but they're all roads lead to one.
When a conspiracy theory comes
That is
through
not
again and again and again, at some
timing.
point, Jack,
Well,
gotta
you
say,
can be like Marty Laurie. You can throw out a lot of predictions, and if you
called
like
it.
a
The timing
baseball,
of it,
like
though,
a baseball player.
The next day. I'm sorry. Jack, come on.
Like a baseball player, if you only hit the ball 3 times out of 10,
you're in a Hall of Famer, yeah.
right.
So
Yeah, he's done.
I've hit it a few more times than 3, though.
It's convenient timing. It's very.
It's
How stupid are we pretending we all
for much of Joe Biden's
Come on.
base, the answer is they're not pretending this. So they legitimately are. Some just are so. Speaking of long COVID, the only thing more dangerous than long COVID is long TDS.
What's TDS?
Trump derangement syndrome.
system, yeah.
That is more deadly than COVID, and it affects you far longer.
Oh,
Because there are some people that don't care that, to save democracy, we have to bump out the democratically elected president of the United States.
So for America's political COVID, Teddy peddles ivermectin. All right.
Oh, which, by the way,
Wouldn't it prove
today it came out that ivermectin works against COVID.
It sure does.
For
Yeah.
3, and they even talked about how safe and affordable it
Who
is.
posted
heard it
that?
from the-
Quackenbush?
No, that's not
Look,
the.
I don't know about any of that.
Stutz has called it in like May of 2020.
Yeah.
So you really think that the city council, because the mayor,
Oh,
right?
Jesus. Can we,
No,
It's
because
done.
they
It's
want to
done.
do it on the 23rd, right?
They're not gonna. They'll go to special election.
You think so?
The pressure on them, especially now that the last hurdle of
And
the,
what's the pressure? They're trying to pressure Leahy to not resign.
no, the pressure is
trying
going
to
to be
pressure
that
Sakari
the
not to
pressure is going to
piss
be
people
that
off.
there's going to be 20 speakers between Belvedere residents who want a special election, and I guarantee you some of the usual nonprofit suspects will be rounded up speaking about
Well, it's only-
Can't you just sign a letter
cares?
with Brian and Brian? And
Many of those nonprofits who wouldn't piss on Belvedere if the whole neighborhood was on fire. I told you I'd work that in.
Thank you.
Wait, what?
Many of the people who will speak about the sanctity of Belvedere being able to choose its next representative,
Or just the sanctity of a special
they
election.
They wouldn't piss on, but they would punish Belvedere if they could, and they probably have
so you're-
sometimes along the
they're-
way.
I don't.
They work hard and
he's
they
not-
vote. Oh
I
my
don't know.
God, they're the worst.
I don't know. They work hard and they vote. Plus, a couple of weeks ago, their grass looked greener than everybody else.
Oh, God
look,
forbid.
At the parks.
He's not incorrect because I've talked to sort of grassroots activists, and they don't even quite understand that if you protect two minority majority districts' rights that you have to protect the Belvedere's rights.
Well,
they don't necessarily get that in their gut. It takes a cool, calm, collected election protection person, right, to actually think through this.
I mean, if Lowell would be screwed without Belvedere, it would be Lawrence, right? But none of this is really about the sanctity.
First of all, you're ignoring the Hip Hop Highlands, okay?
Michaela's from the Highlands. Can we get the? She's up for Highlands.
There's a lot of great districts. There's all the
Distance.
No, but I'm
the
just saying,
subtle
like,
racism of the accusation against Lawrence.
or whatever, just it's reality. But but let's just not
I
fool
met a
ourselves.
guy in Idaho from Lawrence in Idaho.
Did you meet? Was there any Lowell connection out there?
Yeah,
There's always a
so
Lowell connection.
I'm at the concert. I'm getting a beer at the concert, and the guy next to me, I don't know, we started talking. He's like, "I'm from Lawrence, Massachusetts." There you go.
In Idaho.
In Idaho.
This is all about the manager.
See, most people escape and go to New Hampshire. Some go to Idaho.
It is about protecting the manager at all costs.
Or getting rid of him.
or
being loyal.
Yeah, it's the.
I don't.
It's
That's
the
not
six
the vibe. That's not the vibe I'm getting.
It's the 6 versus 4, baby. 6 versus 4.
Look, I know. I saw when Corey was here, you tried to put him on the spot of trying to drive a wedge between him and the manager. You did that.
I'm trying to
You
drive.
did that.
I'm trying to drive a wedge
you
between
did
Corey
that.
and the manager.
Go back and watch it.
I'm trying to drive a wedge.
The way you put him on the spot. You were trying to drive a wedge between him and the manager.
No, I wasn't. I was trying to get him to be honest about what I believe is going on behind the scenes, and it's going on in your private.
By the way, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with it?
If the manager can get a handle on executing the work that needs to be done and bring the stick to
so hiring and firing decisions should go to the council, right?
No, I never said that. You're just making that up to be ridiculous.
Well,
he just needs. They just need to get a handle.
To fire certain people.
They just need to get. They don't even need to fire them.
I like a little opposition. You should always have a little opposition.
Yes,
What's wrong with that?
Agreed.
There's nothing wrong with
I don't think they need to fire
too
him.
much
They just need to
opposition
get
to that.
results. Get the results.
We're not getting results in Lowell.
Unless you just want to put yourself in a position.
What, the link? That was hand delivered
It's not
by
just
the university.
There's so many other
Yeah, but I
positive
see
things
the
happening in the
administration
city.
touting it like they delivered it, like they're
No. The administration isn't touting Link. Julie Chen touted Link on here and to me in multiple
And
conversations.
part of the problem, we're going to have Link, but we're going to build a 5-floored wooden tenement over there for 𝒊𝒏𝒕, and we're not going to bet on the promise. Are we?
Yeah. What does 𝒊𝒏𝒕 build?
And where are all these people going to park?
How about the building on Middlesex Street
The
that
one
was
he got
going to
to
go
put up before anything?
basically subsidized housing on steroids, the old Crown Gym. That was
Poverty is big business.
right, exactly, and yet certain counselors and certain people said no, we're not doing that. And lo and behold, they just got a giant grant to build market rate housing there and in the Hildreth building.
Yeah,
do you think that's a coincidence? Do you think that's an accident?
That's a great.
That's a positive development for Lowell, right?
So
who gets credit for that?
This is an aside, right? I saw Danny,
Pivot.
the mayor, standing next to Maura Healey, right?
Which is absolutely comical.
I thought in my head, the acid reflux this kid must have right now. Because
listen, I call him Wolf Mayor.
But watching Danny be all them is
He was great at the abortion rally too.
I don't have to do anything to Dan Rourke, which I don't want to because he's not a bad guy. He's doing a good job as mayor. But whenever I see those photo ops, I know he's being punished.
He's the mayor. That's what the mayor does. They go to photo ops. But there's no the big picture. We're gonna fight over blades of grass and potholes when big picture.
We're fighting over
tremendous.
We're fighting over
some tremendous developments in the city of Lowell.
We're fighting over quality of life.
Yeah,
We're fighting
quality of life, a better city.
Quality of life.
A better city.
We're fighting for an experience in Lowell, and not just experience for tourists that come in and spend money and leave. We're trying to get experience for the residents that live here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, like surrounding them with good neighbors who pick up their trash and don't just throw it on streets and parks and whatnot.
That's right. Yeah, we want to have a positive experience.
Okay.
And we don't need a 5-story wooden structure.
And you're getting positive experiences. Are you not?
I don't look. I saw that artwork that was put up by Federal Carpet, right? Not a sponsor, but it's by Federal Carpet.
Federal Carpet.
Right?
Federal Carpet, if you want to be a sponsor.
Top donut. That's, I think, a positive development in the art that was done under the Rotary at Hunts Falls, right?
Art, cultures, economic
Bike lane,
development,
bike
housing.
ARPA though, it's
Jet skis.
It's ARPA money.
You're seeing a lot of
Jet
ARPA
skis on the
money,
river
Yeah.
today.
but you're seeing a lot of positive
Good to be the
developments.
city manager when the ARPA ship comes in.
It's
right?
also good to be the city manager when other good developments are
Lots of
happening,
good
too.
things are. Lots of good things.
So
are
we're
like-
gonna go after him for stuff that exists everywhere. And he doesn't. By the way, he doesn't need defending. Tom Golden doesn't. And I'm pretty sure his life will be just as fine when he's not Lowell City Manager, whether that's in 2 years or 3 years or whenever.
That's right.
But if you can't see that the city is significantly moving forward now, we're starting
I
to see
think
some of
so.
those
Yeah, I
results.
I think so.
And we're still gonna fight over petty political games.
Well, I don't think we should forget the small stuff, right? I think
I
we
don't
should,
think we are.
but we can't just fluff certain kinds of things. And because I took a shot at him about the ARPA money, I gotta say, and I'll defend him, he was brave enough and bid off on some taxation because we really need to have a long-term revenue plan. And Tom very bravely, all right. Now maybe if there's unrest and someone's coming, maybe they don't like, taxation Tommy or something. I don't know.
Tommy Taxes is the proper nickname.
I think he did the right thing, right? You think he did the right thing?
Yeah, well, I'm seeing some results, so yes.
Okay.
But
And you don't- you
But there's
are-
a limit. He can't keep doing that. He's got to do more of what
No,
he
he
did
needs
this
to-
past
he
year.
probably-
2.5,
two and a-
3.
yeah.
He can't go.
He did some catch up, right?
Yes.
So now
we
he
hope
just needs to do some maintenance going forward.
I gotta pee.
All right, guys.
What, we
Jack
didn't
Mitchell.
talk about bikes. Did we
I
talk-
can't talk anymore. I'm like literally. I can't.
Jack Mitchell, Mikaela Bach, Mike 𝒊𝒐𝒔, the Pod
right.
Squad.
Nice.
Thank you, guys. I'm sure they'll be talking about this, or maybe we'll get some more positive developments out there in the city.
Let's hope so.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
And we thank all of you for joining us as well here on this Inside Lowell podcast. As we like to say, Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till next time, stay safe, everybody.